Hello learners, I welcome you all to lecture number 4. In this lecture, we will be looking at some of the historical context. If you ask me, is it important, should we read about the history? I would say yes, because most of you may be under the impression that the contemporary international investment law can be traced to the origin of this can be traced to the signing of the very first BIT, which was between Pakistan and Germany in 1959. But that is not the case. Bilateral investment treaties are one of the contemporary sources of international investment law, and we do see that the countries are signing bilateral investment treaty. But it would be completely misleading if you say that the origin of international investment law started with the signing of the very first BIT between Pakistan and Germany in 1959. Actually, even if we trace the treaty-based origin of international investment law, we could trace it back to the 17th century. It is actually the political and commercial aspirations of European countries that has a tremendous influence on the principles of international investment law. So, we do have to look at the practice of European countries, especially in the 17th century, what they had done, and when the European investors had moved to non-European countries, then how did they, what are the strategies that the European countries deployed in order to protect the investments made by their nationals in non-European countries as well. So, we need to look at the historical context of the development of the principles of international investment law. Only if the history is appreciated, then we can see the contemporary, we can see how it had influenced the contemporary principles, what are the reforms that can be done in the contemporary times. So, you may be aware, UNCITRAL Working Group 3 has been working on reforming investor-state dispute settlement of international investment law, right? The dispute settlement regime. So, they've been working on since 2018. There are some areas that needs to be improved. So, UNCITRAL Working Group 3 is been particularly looking at this. So, how can we bring a reform to an existing regime if we do not appreciate the history, the historical context? So, precisely for this reason, we should also understand the historical reasons. Only then we can talk about reforming the contemporary international investment law so that environmental principles can be integrated. So, for this reason, this week and probably the next week, we will be looking at the historical context, that is before the bilateral investment treaty era took over the shaping of international investment law. So, we are going to discuss that in this week and in the next week as well. So, lecture number 4 is particularly focused on giving you a brief introduction as to how did it start, right? I mean, we are not going to go very back, we are just going to limit ourselves to the 17th century because that is where the treaty-based regulation of foreign investment had started. So, with the rise of industrial capitalism and the continued growth of modern state, what we see is that the movement of capital across national boundaries became a common feature. So, investors started taking capital from their home country to some other country, and that became a common feature. And then as a result of doing this, we do also see that international production had started picking up. The capacity to produce commodities in a foreign land picked up. The capacity to manage events from a distance started happening, and then they also started, as a result, they also started getting the support of foreign government, and all of these became the characteristic feature of the world economy itself. Now, what we see here is there is decreasing communication cost, there is decreasing transportation cost, with which the production is now happening in a foreign land. So, now what we see is when there is production that is happening in a foreign land, we do see that the companies are no more interested in merely exporting and importing certain commodities like furs, precious metals, spices, but rather the companies were interested in producing or manufacturing products in a foreign land. They were engaged in activities like mining, farming, generating electricity in a foreign land, right? So that sort of a shift in the world economy had happened around 17th century. That is something we could clearly see. The companies were again interested in vertical integration also. For instance, look at oil companies. Oil companies extracted oil, then refined them, as well as they sold them to the markets. So they were vertically integrated. So oil companies, the companies were interested in vertical integration, just like the oil companies, where they controlled the manufacturing process as well as extraction process as well as distribution process. And some companies, especially the manufacturing services companies, they were also interested in horizontal integration as well. And we could see these manufacturing companies establishing local subsidiaries in a foreign country. And when they established a local subsidiary, that has sort of minimized the transportation cost, and it also effectively addressed the trade barriers. If they had manufactured those products in their home state, then probably they would be facing some trade barriers. Now a foreign subsidiary has been established, then they did not face the trade barriers also. Moreover, there was a possibility of making tailor-made products which suited the needs of the local population as well. So there were many advantages that had happened when the movement of capital happened from one country to other country, where the investors took the capital from the home state and invested in the host state. But this is not without any challenges. There were some challenges that these investors also faced. So that I will discuss in the second segment of this lecture. So in the second segment, we will look at the challenges, and as a result of the challenges, what became the end product. I mean, we would see that regulation of the foreign investment became a common feature. What we see is that there is a movement of capital from one country to other country. Then in the next video, we will look at the challenges as well as we will look at the response of the host state for this inflow of capital into their country. Thank you.